Good morning, CLC. First, I would like to thank Denise Lagway-Slates and her team for these beautiful Christmas decorations. Everybody, please give them a round of applause. Thank you for that. As I'm sure the majority of you are aware by now, Thursday morning, our beloved Reverend Marsha Lehman transitioned into spirit. Reverend Marsha has been a member of this spiritual community for nearly 30 years. Calling her a pillar of this community doesn't feel adequate enough to describe her integral role here. Reverend Marsha has served as a leader, a spiritual guide, a teacher, a counselor, mentor, life coach, prayer partner, colleague, and friend, just to name a few. And that doesn't even begin to scratch the surface. Affectionately nicknamed the CLC Mama Bear, she has been a shoulder that we have cried on, the strong arms that we've depended on, and the heart and mind that we've relied on as a spiritual compass for our community. Her fierce, protective nature and gentle, pushy style has always led us to love, light, and truth, empowering us all through a heartfelt connection with the divine. Her healing power and presence emanates through these walls and through each and every godling that she has ever touched. We grieve alongside Reverend Marsha's family and friends and affirm, as someone so aptly described this past week, that her greatest gift of love was needed beyond this plane, where one day we will meet her and pick up the story where it has temporarily left off. We at Creative Life are committed to supporting anyone and everyone who has ever been touched by Reverend Marsha through individualized spiritual mind treatment and personalized prayer, regardless of their membership to our center, as well as anyone who may be struggling with this or any other personal life challenge. If you need someone to talk to, if you need someone to know the truth of who you are with and for you, please reach out to us. We are here to help you. There are a number of ways that you can reach us: via email at info@creativelife.org. You can send us a private message through Facebook Messenger. You can complete the contact tab on our website, or you can reach out directly to any one of our practitioners or ministers. And now, as we come to our inner healing time, I just want to invite everyone to just take a moment. Breathe in this moment. Check in with yourself and allow yourself to feel whatever it is that you're feeling. It's all okay. Bring your awareness deep within and connect to your divine source. Allow that source to lead you to love, light, and truth. Settle in this moment. Allow yourself safe passage through to that higher source. Momentarily detach from any stress or tension. Relax your body. Open your mind. And allow yourself to be here now. Universal love enfolds me. Universal wisdom inspires me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one, and all is well. As we begin this inner healing process, let me invite you to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself to the miracle-working higher power. Now symbol. Acknowledging this higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems, while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of the infinite presence, I simply speak these words: I surrender. Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive anyone and everyone who has ever injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all of my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, I now say, I forgive. Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow this higher power to recreate me deeply, filling my mind with thoughts that are only positive, constructive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose. I now center upon that one special idea that I'm willing to accept as real for me in this coming week. In visualizing that idea as already acted upon and brought to pass, in seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled and gratefully speak these words: I accept. Knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me, I allow myself to relax in the peace of fulfillment and gratitude and say, I release. Now, in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. This can be a friend, a family member, a teacher or mentor, someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways, someone who may not be physically present in the room with me this morning. I turn toward that image in my mind's eye and say, I'm grateful for the good in your life. Now I open my eyes, turn to the world around me, and joyfully speak to anyone physically present in the room or virtually on this broadcast, and share in confidence and gratitude in saying, I'm grateful for the good in your life.
I like having roadies. Thank you for setting the table that way. Denise and Marissa and Oceana, thank you for the beautiful tree. Jeffrey, this is why I tell you don't exercise. Well, my Aunt Anita, which is what everyone called her because they couldn't pronounce her actual Danish first name, was a big part of this center for its first 15 years. She passed in 2000. She'd be 106 this year. And while she was active here, she took an interest in cleaning things and arranging things and sorting things, along with everything else. She was an arts practitioner and very involved in the spiritual side, but she did a lot of the mechanical stuff, a lot of the heavy lifting. And one day, years ago, somewhere in 1993, in the winter of 93, I was upstairs in my office, which at that time was on the far corner of what we now call the Learning Center. And it has a floor-to-ceiling window in it that overlooks the stairs, and across the way is an opposite room that has a floor-to-ceiling window in it overlooking the stairs, so you could see from room to room, across the stairs there. And she was in that closet in that room. It's now our teen room. Hang on, I have 12 sets of keys for some reason today. And she's taking stuff out and she's sorting it, because you know how closets get in a communal space, like the stuff gets pitched in there, whatever, and you're looking for the Christmas Eve candles or something, and who knows where it might be. So she's moving stuff out of there. And I'm sitting in my office and I'm on the phone or something, and presently I see this other woman helping her. And I look across, and I didn't know this person. I thought it was probably some friend of hers. And I thought, that's really nice. She brought her friend up here to help her clean out the closet. Well, eventually I came out of my office, and I said to Nancy, who's this? She says, I don't know. I don't know who this is. She says her name is Marsha. She says her name is Marsha. And this was the first time that Marsha ever set foot on our property. They had just moved here. She had been a student of religious science a couple of places, but principally in Atlanta with Dr. Kennedy Schultz, which is strange and cool, because I just referenced him a couple of weeks ago in a talk, and I don't often, because I wasn't that familiar with his work. She was. And they had just moved to town, and so she was coming to Creative Life to introduce herself and say, my family and I will be joining your activities here. She came looking for the minister. But on her way to the minister, she saw a job that needed doing. And she started doing it. And that was Marsha. That is Marsha. In the next life, she's busy helping, organizing, rearranging. Oh, and about pushy, no one ever called her that. She called herself that. Where Danielle got that was from the bio that Marsha herself wrote for herself on our website. And she did that very much tongue-in-cheek, because as any woman can tell you, if a man suggests it, it's assertive. Right? And so it was very much a very subtle kind of a communication there that she made. But if she ever pushed anybody, she pushed them where they said they wanted to go. And maybe they were holding back. Maybe they were hanging out. And she got behind them and she gave them something of a shove. But it was never where she thought they should be. It was where they had said and indicated and behaved as though they wanted to be. She had no ego attachment to the many people that she helped. And just in the last 3 days, I have heard from so many people that she helped in so many ways that I had no idea of, that no one besides that person themselves had any idea of. I knew they knew each other, you know, that kind of thing. And that includes our own beloved Danielle. We spoke on the phone last night about that beautiful piece that she wrote and just read to you to set the tone for today, and to also communicate our love to the family who are watching today. But Danielle shared with me some private things last night about where Marsha was there for her that I only was dimly aware of. And everyone has a story like that. This woman was magical. She showed up. She could be 12 places at one time. She showed up for everyone who needed anything. And she always urged us to be more. She always urged us to unpack the self, unpack the soul, which is the talk I actually had planned to give today, which I'll get to eventually. But just walking around these buildings, every room in here holds memories of her. Almost 30 years, 29 years, what difference? You know, oh, it didn't make it to 30. You know, if you love somebody for 30 years, I'm not sure you grieve them more intensely than if you know, like 3 times more intensely than if you love them for 10. And there are people that just maybe in the last 30 days were affected by Marsha in some way that are today very distraught. And so what Danielle said to you goes for all of us and speaks for all of us, and that we're here for you, and we'll do everything that we possibly can. Those who are not affiliated with the center, never have been, I mean, people around the country who connected with her. But she was something. She was something. Quiet. Didn't take up a lot of space, you know, but fierce. Quiet, fierce. She had 2 speeds, quiet, fierce. Good fierce. Good fierce. Somebody'd tell you couldn't do something. Somebody'd tell you what the prognosis was. Oh, hell no. She used language that I can't use on camera. But it got the point across. Opened some eyes, you know. Took people under her wing. Just utterly remarkable. Utterly remarkable. And what she would want us to be doing today is exactly what we're doing. She'd say, kind of snap out of it. And when it's the person themselves who's passed, they can say that to you and it's not insulting. You know what I mean? Snap out of it, pull yourselves together, you got a job to do. She was a pro. Along with everything else, she was a professional minister. 29 years, the last 16 of which she was a minister. She defied gravity, she defied the laws of nature. We signed her letter of call in the wake of Hurricane Katrina, when this center was busy hosting and serving evacuees from New Orleans. We held her ordination. This is spooky cool what I'm about to tell you. We held her ordination the Friday evening following Hurricane Ike, when this whole neighborhood, this whole part of the city was dark. But for this building, that building had no power. That building had 3/4 of an inch of water that had blown in through the gaskets in the windows, because that particular hurricane, as you may recall if you were here, came round from the west. It hit us from the west rather than from the coast. It circled around. And so it hit things that weren't necessarily shored up against hurricane type activity. We sat in this building, the plane of her ordaining minister. I was her presenting minister, but her ordaining minister was the Reverend Dr. Margaret Stortz, who is herself a legend. And her plane had to land at Bush amid debris. The back corner of that building, that back corner of this building was lifted off. You could see sky, okay? And still the lights were on in here, and still we went ahead with this ordination ceremony. And it was a beautiful and wonderful and heartfelt thing, and you'll hear more about that as we go through this morning. But in the 16 years of her ministry, she was unleashed to do things that in the run-up, even being a practitioner, she didn't have the sway to do, but as a minister she could, and she took the world by storm. I wish you had heard the reaction when I called our headquarters to inform them. So, now this is not her memorial service. As Danielle said, we're going to have one. And it's going to be, in her words, a clam bake. They lived in Maryland for a while. So It's going to be a clam bake. There will be music, and there will be jugglers and acrobats and magicians and clowns and I don't know what all to celebrate. Can y'all make that happen? To celebrate her life. And we will have an ample opportunity for the people who loved her around the country to offer tributes that I'm jealously getting time to give some of now. You will have time, and it will be Zoomed, and we will make that happen just as soon as the family's ready for that to occur. Okay? So what I was going to talk about this morning, which actually this is a Marsha-approved topic. Marsha-approved sentiments. And oh, by the way, before I get into it, I was just sitting there, and this thought just occurred to me. A lot of you who are newer with us didn't get to experience the full impact. They moved to Washington State, and I think it was the fall of 2019. So we have not seen her in the flesh in a couple of years, but have been on Zoom and phone and text, and the ministers and practitioners of this center have been in heavy contact with her the whole time. But she gave some really good talks a long time ago. And we have those, and a lot of them are on cassette. We're going to digitize them, and we're going to make available. I don't know how this is going to happen, and I'm going to talk, the tech team and I will work it out. We're going to create an archive page on our website or something where you can go in and you can sample these talks. Because like I say, she joined us in '93. I did not look up the year that she licensed as a practitioner. It wasn't too awfully long after that. She had some classes to get through, but I mean, right away she was teaching something. She was leading women's groups and pajama parties. Some of you'll remember there were lock-ins here for the women, pajama parties upstairs. This was uncharted waters for most spiritual centers, but Marsha managed to do it. So we're going to make her words available to you so you can hear the body of her teaching in a way that those of us who've been around the whole time have been privileged to do. Well, earlier this week, before this tragedy struck, on Tuesday, I was driving around and I was sitting at a red light, and to my left, looking around, nothing to do, waiting for the light to change, there was this building called Life Storage. Life Storage. Storage units. They're everywhere, right? You know? They pave paradise and put up storage units. So, but I thought, life storage. And I thought, thank you, Spirit. That'll work. That'll work in a talk. And what I wanted to ask you today is, have you ever felt like your life was in storage? You ever felt like part of your life was in storage? Like, well, at this time of year, this kind of stuff. The decorations, the tree, the baubles, the lights. It's not appropriate in March. It's not appropriate in August. You don't leave your tree up all year long. There's a certain window of time. Whatever you're marking by way of a holiday, there's a certain period that's appropriate for it. And the rest of the time, it goes into boxes and into the attic, into storage in some way. But there's a lot of stuff you could use all the time that stays in storage, like childhood dreams, unrealized goals, unfinished business, tools and materials that you've accumulated over the years to express more of who you are. And all this stuff sits in storage. And it sits there patiently waiting, and it's just as fresh for you. Doesn't even, in spiritual storage, gather dust. It may gather doubt, but it doesn't gather dust. And so, when you have the nerve, or when you're at a loss, you go see the storage unit. Just like when you start feeling kind of sentimental about your past. You ever do this? Charlie Brown did that. Charlie Brown's father did this in the Peanuts cartoon. And Charlie Brown caught him at it and kind of wondered about it. His father, who we never saw, he was a barber. Do you remember that? He was never pictured. Charlie Brown walks into the kitchen late one night. The light's on. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. Why is anybody still up? There's Dad sitting at the kitchen table, eating a bowl of cereal, leafing through his high school yearbook. Charlie Brown, being a little kid, doesn't understand what this is about, but he will one day, you know? We look back on these memories and we try to remember how we felt when this certain thing was going on. All of that remains in storage, but we could use some of that now. We could use some of the youthful idealism. We could use a little pushy. We could use a little vulgar. We could use a little no, hell no. You know, we could use a little of that from time to time. We acquiesce very often. We give in rather than give up, you know. We give in to things, the passage of time, the movement of the years. All of us, in a loss like we've experienced, look back. I remember when I just did it with you. I remember when this happened and what was going on and all of this. But everything that's happened up to now has positioned us to be everything that's yet to come. I know that sounds like a line, you know. Well, it is. It's a motivational, inspirational kind of line, but it's true. Because we got a lot more life ahead of us. And what are we going to do with that? What are we going to do with that? We were blessed to have in our presence a person who, I think if you had to encapsulate it, she knew who she was. Marsha knew who she was. If she ever forgot, it was somewhere else and someone else. But when I saw her and you saw her and she was, you know, doing what she did around here, she, by God, knew who she was. And we could use a little more of that because we forget who we are. And we forget, this is an expression I owe to Sandy Newkirk, we forget whose we are, you know? We forget whose we are with a capital W, meaning Spirit through us. So I was listening to some Dr. Kennedy Schultz, as I said a few weeks ago. Yesterday I was listening, because I'm digitizing some stuff, I was listening to some Dr. Eric Butterworth, another giant, out of the Unity School. But with all due respect to Unity, and I think Unity would agree, he taught religious science because he taught spiritual mind treatment. It's very much down our line, and he's got a series of tapes on practical metaphysics, just remarkable, you know. And one of the points that he makes in these tapes, and he makes thousands of points that are all worth quoting, is he says, you're not about to become spiritual. You're not about to become spiritual. When you take the right class or read the right book or sit through the right service, you have always been spiritual. You're about to become aware of your spirituality. That's what happens. It's like, oh, look. It's like saying, oh, look, I have feet. I've been walking around on something and I didn't know what they were. And here they are. Oh, look, I have hands. Oh, look, I have a voice. Oh, listen, I have a voice, you know. I've been using it all along, maybe kind of randomly, but gosh, when I put words together in a coherent way, people respond. That's becoming aware. We become aware of our spirituality. We are spiritual beings the whole time. And we limp along waiting for something to happen. And much of Advent, which I got into last week, the first Sunday of, is about waiting. There's a beautiful song, maybe we'll hear it this season, called O Come Emmanuel, and ransom captive Israel that lies in mournful exile here until the Son of God appear. Speaking of the people of Israel waiting for a Messiah in mournful exile. And as a historical note, it works, and as a theological note, it works if you go down that theological path. But as a life process, waiting doesn't really work as a strategy. There are times when you have to be patient. There are times when you have to wait. But while you're waiting, you can always do something. I'm sitting at a red light. I look over. I get an idea for a talk today. Why did I get the idea for a talk? Because I'm in the business of giving talks. Were I in some other industry, I'd have gotten some information that would have been appropriate to that. But what I'm looking for are words. What I'm looking for are images to paint pictures of with you, to convey certain ideas, and that's what I got. And I could have just blown it off and sat there waiting, numbed out, but instead I looked. That's not a heroic act. It's just, frankly, something I've learned to do. Because you people, every week, expect me or someone like me to get up here and say something interesting and useful. You know, so there's a certain demand that you place on us to stand and deliver, right? Well, everywhere while we're supposedly waiting, there's something signaling. Hello, hello. And we invite it in. Butterworth speaks about the Messiah. Butterworth speaks about the Messiah in a way that I can only characterize as this. He gave another series of talks called Gospel Truth. When we were a new little spiritual center, even pre-Marsha, back in those days, when we had a little bitty lending library. We didn't even have a bookstore yet. We had a lending library that was made up of cassette tapes, because that's what people did. Another late beloved member of this center named John McTaggart, for whom our lending library is named. He passed in 1989. That's how long ago that's been. John was a fantastic individual who I'll tell you about some other time. But John had been raised in very orthodox Christianity, and he found our center and its teaching through his recovery program. So he wanted to know a way to try to bridge his recovery program with our, what he considered kind of out there philosophy. And so I recommended to him this series of tapes, Gospel Truth by Eric Butterworth. The next time I saw him, on a Sunday, he came up those stairs and he said, I drove off the road. I said, what do you mean you drove? He said, listening to these tapes of what Butterworth said, I literally drove my car off the road. Because Butterworth pulls no punches. To wit, you are the Messiah. Oh, that's heresy. Oh, that's scandalous. Unforgivable. And true. You are your own Messiah. You are your own Messiah. Jesus the Christ, about whom we will speak copious amounts of words at the next 3 Sundays and Christmas Eve, is our elder brother, is a spiritual teacher of enormous magnitude, beyond which, I mean, there's, as I said last week, all the armies and all the navies and everybody else put together cannot equal, much less surpass what he contributed to our life. And you are your own Messiah. And we believe this is what he was teaching us, pointing us back within ourselves, rather than worshiping outwardly and waiting. And waiting. Now a lot of people are waiting for his second coming, because his first one wasn't enough. Because he came and said, love one another. And we're like, what else you got? What else you got for me? That's great. You know, I'd love to do it, Jesus. You know, maybe you can manage that, but you got any prelims? You know? No. Love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy mind, with all thy soul. And the second like unto, love thy neighbor as thyself, which supposes, if you look at the syntax of that, love your neighbor as yourself, it's supposing that you're loving yourself first. Love your neighbor as much as yourself supposes that you've engaged in some degree of self-love first before approaching your neighbor. Butterworth points this out too. He says, when it comes to forgiving your enemies, he says, don't forgive your enemies because they deserve it. Forgive your enemies because you deserve it. Whoa! I had to sit down. I had to sit down and be with that because I deserve it. I deserve to have my enemies forgiven. Why? Because I'm the only one holding anything against them. That's why they're my enemies. I don't have personal enemies. I really don't think I do, like individuals who hate me. Keep talking this way and that might change, but no. My enemies are procrastination, okay? Right? You know, disillusionment, disappointment, frustration. You get the idea. I have a unique, I'm not going to tell you what all of them are, but I have a set of them, and you have a set of them. And to forgive them is good for me. So it's all right to procrastinate. It's all right to this. It's all right to wait. Just don't make it a lifestyle. That's the thing. Especially spiritually speaking. If you want to wait to apply for the new job, I'm all right with that. Marsha would not be, but I'm all right with that. See, Marsha never sympathized with people's problems. She fixed them. Or caused you to fix them. I'm out of work. You might tell her. She wouldn't sit there and say, oh, that must feel awful. Being out of work like that. Gosh. Let me just sit here with you while you mourn your lost job. No, she says, so what are we going to do? What are we going to do about that? She coached me. I never asked her to. But she coached me. If you were around her, you learned you had to be very careful. If you said to her, Marsha, I plan to do thus and such, there would be follow-up. Yeah. How are we coming with that? Well, I kind of changed. Really? And her eyes would narrow. Hands would go on her. I changed my mind. I changed direction. Really? You know? And you can see the wheels turning, and you're thinking, she's thinking, I think he sold out. Was she thinking that? We don't know. I don't think so. I think it was a game. I think it was, if I stand here and narrow my eyes and put my hands on my hips, you know, a message will be conveyed that sheer words would not accomplish. It's all right to wait. It's all right to wait. But for one thing, the full presence, the full magnitude, the full magnificence of who you are as a spiritual being. The capacity that you have to give and receive love. The capacity that you have. In the last 72 almost hours, there's 72 hours since we learned this grievous news. If you watched on social media, on our Facebook page, and there are other places too where these conversations are happening, watch how people are taking care of each other. Watch how people are reaching out to. They're saying, "Oh, so and so, I know I need to call, and I need to, you know, to catch them, to make a soft landing place for them." We can do that all the time, even when there's not tragedy. We can be of service in the world in that way. We can kind of do the right thing. We can be open to inspiration for our own path, and we can be attuned and attentive to the needs of the others who accompany us on the path, the people who fly alongside of us. We don't take over their lives and control them, and Marsha never did that. Like I said, she never steered you where you didn't want to go. She never stepped in front of you and said, here, let me live your life for you. Let me make your choices for you. Let me get between them and the consequences. That was never what happened. It was always promotion and advancement of your own energy, of your own power. And to me, that's what made her a true spiritual mentor. That's what made her a true spiritual guiding light on the planet, because to me, that's what makes a true religion. And any of them can work, and any of them can be true if they'll do that for you. Tell you that you have what it takes because you were made in wonder and blessing by the only power there is in this world. And as you express your true nature in the world, you can't help but be a beneficial presence. You can't help but be an agent of healing. So to Denny and Sherilyn, and Angela, and Adam and Steve, and the grandkids, and Nan and the other sisters, and anyone in the Lehman extended family, and I know their aunts and uncles and cousins and so on around the country. We love you. We have you in prayer. We miss her, but not like you miss her. Not like you miss her. She was our family, but she was your family first and last and always. And so whatever we can do, I know that sounds kind of vague, but she never discounted the power of prayer. You know that. And that's where we're going to be. From now, as long as it takes to heal the hole in our hearts. God bless you all. I'm going to treat now. Let's know together. There is one life, one power, one presence. It is infinite, it is eternal, it is immortal, everywhere present and fully present at every point within itself. This word called death, this Anglo-Saxon word, is shorthand for a natural, physical occurrence, as natural as birth, as natural as growth. But just like those two words, it does not begin to describe or define the fullness of the being who experiences it. For the essential part of us is not the body. The essential part of us is not even the accomplishments. The essential part of us is the unconquerable soul within that existed before it got here, came here, flourished a while, expanded and expressed, and then was freed in a timing no one understands, nor will we ever. But for that individual who has passed through that veil themselves, we may know that on some level they know why it was time. Why it was time to take the body off and move into this next experience about which we dream and imagine and know really very little. But we believe this because the Scripture advises us we walk by faith, not by sight. And so when a soul has turned the corner out of our physical sight, our faith takes over. It's sort of like a hybrid engine. Another power, a higher power, kicks in. And we see with the eyes of the soul. And so we know beyond the shadow of a doubt that this amazing, brilliant being of light we have called Marsha Lehman is with us still in our hearts, in love, and at the same time is not captured here in us. For she has her own journey to travel, and she is busy learning and expressing and eventually teaching in that new estate. Until we meet again, when, as Danielle so beautifully put it, the time comes when this temporary separation ends and we're all together again and we pick up the story where it left off. Until that moment, in our faith, in our love, and in our gratitude that such a being as this gifted us with her presence, I say thank you, infinite presence of life, Mother, Father, God, for this beauty, this wonder that Marsha is, and for the courage and peace that is increasing in each of our hearts as we go forward. And I let it be, and so it is. Thanks, yeah.
I'm going to play two pieces that I played for Marsha's ordination, Above the Clouds and So Be Ye Kind.
As our ushers make their way to the back for giving time, I just want to echo something Reverend Jesse said. I know that he has been on the phone for the last few days, texting, talking to people. I have, our ministers, our practitioners have. We've supported one another through this. And I just want to thank each and every one of you for all of your calls, your well wishes, and your support, as well as reaching out to one another and supporting one another through this change. So thank you for all of that. Thank you for being there. Thank you for being who you are and giving of your heart. We are truly grateful for each and every one of you. And with that now, I invite you to say with me, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. I am prosperous now, and so it is.
And now I get to send you, whoa, all right. There goes my voice. It's all good. I'm going to take a deep breath. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to be gentle with yourself today, to be gentle with yourself this week, to be gentle with yourself this month, to be gentle with yourself in this lifetime. I'm going to quote a line from a movie, and those of you who know it will know it, and those of you who don't, that's okay too. What is grief but love preserving? Jesse taught my first practitioner class, Prac 1. Marsha taught Prac 2 to me. And one of the things that I will never forget is the very last class. Marsha walked us to what we like to call the Harry Potter closet, showed us where that was, took us into the bathroom, and showed us how to open the things to put the paper towels in for when people wash their hands. That's who she was. And that is what she trained all of the practitioners here to be, and all of the ministers to be, which is why you will see the ministers and the practitioners with brooms in their hands, cleaning cloths, folding, what have you, because she taught us to be of service. To be of service to our community, to be of service to our world, to be of service to ourselves, to be of service to spirit. And so, while our hearts are broken, what I would tell you that Marsha would say to us now is that our hearts are broken open. And that's how the light gets in. So, know with me that there is one life, one power, one presence, one love. And each and every one of us is an essential part of that love. And love never goes away. It merely changes form. So I am knowing for every life that Marsha has touched, peace, comfort, a warm hug, a deep knowing that we carry her in our hearts, in our minds, in the lessons that we have learned, in that divine know that she taught us, and in that divine yes that she enthusiastically embraced. And so we carry that out into the world, and we continue to spread these lessons. Because each light that has been touched by her, we're going to shine that much brighter for the knowing of her. So I hold each one of you in my heart. I hold each one of you in my comfort. I offer each one of you that mama bear hug. I offer you the divine love. the inexhaustible love, the inexhaustible grace. So in those quiet moments, when your heart seizes, remember who you are, and remember whose you are. You are a beloved child of God, in whom God is well pleased, always and forever. Let your light shine. And I am grateful for you. And I am grateful for her. And I am grateful for this place. And I am grateful for this community. And I am grateful for this teaching. And I am grateful for all the people that make this possible. And I release my word now into the law, into the love, knowing that it is done. And so it is.
Say with me now, something wonderful is happening through me.
Something wonderful is happening through me.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my
I
body.
feel it in my mind.
I feel it in my
I
mind.
feel it in everything I am.
I feel it in everything I am.
I choose it.
I choose
I
it.
trust it.
I trust
I
it.
use it.
I use
And
it.
I love it.
And I love it.
So it is.
And so it is.